Biggest event of the week though was the Bridge of Friendship between Australia and France, and this is a new World War I monument in Anzac Park Toowong. The French ambassador turned up. There were lots of dignitaries. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because it's worthy of a video on its own, so stay tuned and I'll see if I can organise a dedicated video for that.
Peter Racy here, Anzac Day Precinct, which is at Mount Cootha, and I've come here to Anzac Park today, the 14th, Monday the 14th of November 2022, to have a look at this new national memorial, the Friendship Bridge between Australia and France, and it is incredibly important for several reasons. The first is that there is a twin of this bridge going over to France, and it is going to be unveiled on the 24th of April 2024, which will be prior to the Olympics in Paris. So this bridge is going to have a promotional aspect in relation to Brisbane's Olympics in 2032. The one in Amiens is being unveiled in the Botanical Gardens, and this particular bridge in Brisbane is important because it is in the world's first Anzac Park. The bridge is a memorial to sappers, and the web page, which can be referred to through the link at the bottom, gives some really great history and great reasons as to why this memorial is important. Now, the real crux historically of why the memorial to World War I sappers is so important is that in Queensland we have the Mephisto, and the Mephisto is a A7V Schunter wagon, one of only 20 that were produced, and they were produced late 1917. Our example, which, as I've said previously, is the only surviving example in the world, was captured right towards the end of World War I in one of the battles of Amiens, and was dragged from the battlefield and ended up being a war trophy that turned up in Queensland and was famously dragged into the then Museum of Queensland by two Brisbane City Council steamrollers. A really interesting story in its own right. But the story has even more historical relevance for Queensland, because right out the front, pride of place at the Canberra War Memorial, is the Amiens railgun, and that was captured in part by a Queensland sapper. John Henry Palmer was that sapper, and he was a boilermaker from the Ipswich Rail Workshops. And as I've said, he was one of two that converted the weapon of war into a war trophy that has had a significant part to play in the education of, I dare say, millions of Australians, and has been placed out the front of the Australian War Memorial almost since its inception, when it opened to the public. So this World War I related memorial that is based on a modern interpretation of a Barley Bridge, which was born in World War II but had its antecedents in the trench bridges that were used in World War I, is incredibly important because of its links to the Olympic Games in 2024 and thereafter to our Olympic Games in 2032. It is important because it memorialises a part of the Defence Forces that have not to date had adequate recognition. And it's important because it's gone into into what I would argue is the world's first Anzac Park. And right from the very inception of Anzac Park, there was a solicitor who lived in Wall Street. His name was Walter Harding, and he planted thousands upon thousands of trees in memory of those lost and buried in the battlefields in Europe. Walter Harding, I think, would be smiling at this quite amazing war memorial that has international significance, that has turned up in his beloved Anzac Park. And with that, I'll say good afternoon and thank you for listening.